Chapter 404. I just don't know how to take a hint. Lu Muyen flew on her sword to the sex contribution points management office and went to the place where contribution points were exchanged. There were basically no pupils in the hall, where one exchanged for contribution points, which was in great contrast to the lively scene of the nearby hall where the contribution points were being used to exchange for things. You want to exchange for contribution points? A supervisor in the hall asked. Lu Muyen nodded. Is there a breakdown of the contribution points exchange here? The supervisor took out a jade slip and handed it to her with a nonchalant attitude. Here's a rough exchange price here. If your item isn't on it, the value will be given by the sect appraiser after appraisal. Lu Muyen inserted her mental energy into the jade slip to check it out. A high-quality grade 4 pill could be used to exchange for 2,000 contribution points. Grade 5 could be exchanged for 5,000, and magic tools were similar. She furrowed her brows and thought about how to exchange 100,000 contribution points. If she used grade 4 pills to exchange for it, it would take at least 50 pills. She did have them, but taking out so many pills at once would definitely attract the attention of other people. After thinking about it, she took out 10 grade 4 pills and 2 saint treasures collected from Shen Mufeng's interspatial ring and placed them on the table. I will trouble supervisor to see how many contribution points these can be exchanged for. The supervisor didn't expect Lu Muyen to take out so many things at once and immediately began to count them. Then, with a smile on his face, he said, "The things here can be exchanged for a total of 60,000 contribution points. Do you want to exchange?" Yes. Lu Muyen didn't hesitate at all, thought about it, then took out a jar of Millennium Old Royal Jelly and asked, "Supervisor, how many contribution points do you think this can be exchanged for?" The supervisor opened the jar curiously, and a sweet fragrance emanated from it. His eyes widened, his expression changed, and he said, "This is Scarlet Bee Royal Jelly? I can't judge the value of this. It needs to be appraised by the appraiser of the sect. Please wait a moment." The supervisor got up and walked towards the second floor of the main hall. After a while, the supervisor accompanied an old man who appeared to be portly back downstairs. "This is Old Yi Wan, the appraiser of the sect contribution points management office." The supervisor introduced to Lu Muyen. Lu Muyen smiled politely and said, "Hello, Old Yi. I heard that you, little girl, took a jar of Scarlet Bee Royal Jelly in to exchange for contribution points?" Old Yi smiled kindly. Old Yi, please appraise it." Lu Muyen pushed the royal jelly towards him. Old Yi picked up the jar with great interest, and the expression in his eyes changed as soon as he opened it. He sniffed it in shock, then took a drop and tasted it. It's actually Millennium Old Royal Jelly. Old Yi has good eyesight. Lu Muyen praised with a smile. "Do you, little girl, know the value of royal jelly? Taking out such a jar like this could cause countless powerhouses to fight for it." Old Yi said meaningfully. Just based on what he said, Lu Muyen had a little more affection for this Old Yi. "I know the value of Millennium Old Royal Jelly, but I urgently need contribution points to exchange for something, so I can only give up my love for it." Lu Muyen revealed a bitter smile inside. "I wonder how many contribution points can be exchanged for this jar of Millennium Old Royal Jelly?" Old Yi understood to stop reminding, so he weighed the Millennium Old Royal Jelly in the jar with his hands, then said cautiously, "Millennium Old Scarlet Bee Royal Jelly is exceptionally rare and has a wide range of uses. Yours is around 500 grams. This old one won't cheat you either. How about using 100,000 sect contribution points to exchange for it?" Lu Muyen was slightly surprised inwardly. It seemed that she still underestimated the value of Millennium Old Royal Jelly. But then she couldn't help but sigh that Shen Mufeng's life sure was cheap. Come and read on our website Wuxia World site. Thanks, she thought wickedly, that if that arrogant holy son of the devil race knew that the life of his avatar projection was only worth a jar of Millennium Old Royal Jelly, would be vomit blood in anger. "All right. I'll exchange." Old Yi asked the supervisor to give Lu Muyen the contribution points, then smiled and hurriedly left the hall with the Millennium Old Royal Jelly. That's how Old Yi acts when he obtains something he likes. Seeing that Old Yi was like a child, hugging the thing and running away, the supervisor smiled awkwardly. Lu Muyan didn't mind and said, "Old Yi is just being true to himself." After greeting the supervisor, Lu Muyan turned around and entered the hall adjacent. This hall was very lively with people coming and going, and when she walked in, she was greeted by a few obscure glances, which she didn't bother paying attention to. "You want to exchange for something?" the supervisor asked, looking up at her lightly. Lu Muyan nodded and said straightforwardly, "I want to exchange for the heavy water." Hearing her words, the originally indifferent supervisor suddenly looked at her again, furrowed his brows and said, "It takes 200,000 contribution points to exchange for heavy water, do you know?" "I know, you can just swipe it." Lu Muyan handed over the identity jade tablet. All the contribution points used in the inner sect were drawn from it. The supervisor was stunned for a while, apparently not expecting that a newly promoted inner pupil would actually have enough contribution points to exchange for heavy water. He took the jade tablet over and checked it, then said after a bit, "Are you sure you want to use 200,000 sect contribution points to exchange for heavy water?" Lu Muyan furrowed her brows, and her voice was a little cold. "Why can't I exchange for it?" This supervisor was delaying. It made her feel that something was wrong. "Then can I ask what you're going to do with the heavy water?" The supervisor continued to ask, ignoring the cold look on her face. Lu Muyan sneered. "No comment. To tell you the truth, there's only one last piece of heavy water left in the sect, but one of the pupils has already reserved it in advance, so how about you look around and see if there's anything else you want to exchange?" The supervisor said indifferently, "Why haven't I heard that exchanging things can be reserved in advance? Then may I ask, supervisor, did that person use contribution points to exchange for it already?" Lu Muyan asked coldly. Because of some reasons his contribution points is still not enough, so he already went to collect more. The supervisor was a little annoyed when he saw that she didn't listen and said with a threatening tone, "You just entered the sect and don't know some rules. I advise you to stop before going over the limits." "Stop before going over the limits? Why should I stop?" Lu Muyan said with ridicule. "Since the heavy water hasn't been exchanged, then I have every right to exchange for it. Are you trying to use your power for personal gain?" The supervisor's expression darkened, but he didn't know how to reprimand her because he was indeed using this matter for personal gain. That person isn't someone you can afford to offend, so it's better for you to know when to take a hint in the inner sect. "You know about me, I know everything and anything, but I just won't know to take a hint." Lu Muyan hated when others threatened her the most in her life. Today's matter definitely wouldn't be over just like this. Don't refuse to take a toast only to drink a forfeit. The supervisor had never met such a stubborn and arrogant pupil in the sect's contribution points hall like her, and said in a low voice with an angry expression. Lu Muyan's lips hooked into the faintest arc, and she suddenly raised her voice and said, "What do you mean by refusing a toast only to drink a forfeit? Don't think that just because you're a supervisor of the sect's contribution points management office, that you can have everything in your hands. I request to see the managing elder of the sect contribution points hall." Her loud voice indeed caused the people around to cast curious and surprised gazes towards her, and many pupils who were about to leave also stopped to watch the show. So I don't know if people remember, but around 100 chapters ago was the last appearance of an elder who worked for Ming Xiu called Elder Yi. Technically in the original Chinese it's, I accidentally translated it to Elder Yi and it stuck. I don't know how other translators do it, but in this story, I've been translating X as Old X and X as Elder X, etc. But whatever, I'll leave it for now until I decide to do a huge edit one day if I do, haha. But anyways, this old Yi in this chapter uses the exact same character, Yi, as that Elder Yi. I have no idea if that's important or not. XD, but I thought to note it. Random note. Why am I imagining Lu Muyan as a Karen asking for the manager? Ha ha ha. No disrespect intended to the lovely Karen readers out there if any. But she rightfully can ask for the manager XD. Chapter 405. Beat the supervisors. The supervisor of the sect's contribution points management office didn't expect Lu Muyan to make such a loud commotion on purpose, So he quickly hid the panic in his eyes and stood up angrily. Do you think you can see the elder manager of the Contribution Points Management Office whenever you want? If you leave now, I won't pursue your rudeness for defying me. Lu Muyan folded her arms and sneered. Why should I leave? I have contribution points on me. What's wrong with exchanging for something that's still in the manual? You fail to acknowledge a favor. The supervisor saw that many people were looking over here, including 2 supervisors who didn't have a good relationship with him, and he felt a little more urgency. If this was taken to the managing elder, then he definitely wouldn't experience anything good. If you continue to be stubborn, then don't blame me for being impolite. Lu Muyan caught the panic in his eyes, and the mockery on her lips grew even denser. It seemed that no matter where, there would be people who used power for personal gain, but today, since they wanted to bully her, then she would naturally not let this go. How are you going to be impolite? Want to fight? Lu Muyan looked at him with a smile that wasn't quite a smile, then cracked her knuckles. I'll accompany you to the end. The supervisor was completely provoked by her confrontational gaze. His cultivation base was at middle phase sword venerable, and it would be enough to deal with a newly promoted pupil of the inner sect. He also wanted to quickly end this with Lu Muyan, and kick her out in case it caught the attention of those above. The pressure of a middle phase sword venerable was released, and the supervisor waved his sleeves. A powerful force of elemental energy swept towards Lu Muyan. You want to be like a dog threatening people on the strength of their master, with just this level of power? Lu Muyan raised an eyebrow, dodged the palm wind, and disappeared in place with her flash steps. The supervisor didn't expect Lu Muyan to avoid his palm wind at all. After all, they were an entire stage different to each other. He quickly took out a long sword and looked for Lu Muyan's figure to continue to attack, only to feel that the space around him fluctuated slightly. Before he could even attack, a fist landed on his face, then he was blasted out by a force. Presumptuous. He was shocked, knowing that he had completely underestimated Lu Muyan's strength. He stabilized his feet, unreconciled, concentrated his elemental force and swung the sword in his hand. Earth spikes condensed from sword auras attacked Lu Muyan. Lu Muyan hooked her lips. Now that she had evidence that she was attacked first by this person, she could let free of herself and beat this person up. She didn't use sword auras to block the earth thorns, and instead, used her fastest movement technique to continue to dodge the waves of attacks. After a few of her figures passed in the air, she kicked the supervisor away. Then everyone saw that the supervisor who was originally arrogant was beaten to a pulp by Lu Muyan with her violent fists, and he didn't even have room to fight back. Heavens! Who's that woman? A pupil couldn't resist but feel his scalp grow numb as he watched the unilateral beating not far away. Don't know, but the supervisor of the Contribution Points Management Office has always been domineering. It's really nice to see him being beaten like this right now. A person who had once suffered said with a smile. She's a newly promoted inner pupil. Her power's not that bad. How mighty, she even dares to fight the supervisor. She should be the first among the pupils of the sect to dare to beat up a supervisor. Yeah, but who told that supervisor to be so arrogant? When those people come to exchange their contribution points, he's so polite, but the moment us ordinary pupils come, he doesn't give us any face. He deserves it. But this new pupil will also probably be finished too. The crime of assaulting the supervisor of a sect in public isn't a light one. The pupils in the hall were talking and gossiping and watching a good show. Many people admired Lu Muyan's courage, but some also felt that she was too impulsive and didn't recommend it. The other supervisors were stunned when they saw this. It was the first time they had encountered such an arrogant pupil after working in the Contribution Points Management Office for so many years. Although the supervisor who was being beaten usually behaved like he deserved a beating, but it also didn't allow a newly promoted inner sect pupil to come to teach him a lesson. So some quickly stepped forward to stop it. Enough, is a supervisor also someone you can beat? Hurry up and stop. Come and read on our website Wuxia World site. Thanks. Lu Muyan raised her head and watched the 2 supervisors come forward, but she didn't stop what she was doing. He was the one that attacked first. He can hit me, why can't I fight back? Twisting the words to force logic, If you don't stop now, we won't be polite. A supervisor who usually had a good relationship with the person who was being beaten threatened. Lu Muyen sneered. Then be impolite. If you want to fight, then fight together. Chirping around like this is so annoying. You, the supervisor was enraged, and instantly joined the battle with another person. With coldness in her eyes, Lu Muyen tossed the supervisor who was half beaten to death aside, and immediately greeted the two people. Not long after, everyone heard shrill screams, but beyond everyone's imagination. It wasn't Lu Muyen who yelled, but the two supervisors who besieged her. How tough! The women in our inner sect are all tigresses. This violence is almost comparable to that demoness Jin say. Why is it the more beautiful the more fierce now? What do you know? Such a wild beauty is the taste. Now there's a good show to watch, beating 3 supervisors in a row. This junior sister sure is really brave. A handsome and suave man walked into the contribution points hall with 3 people. And when they saw the scene in front of them, they were stunned. What's going on? Who's that woman? He asked with interest. A nearby pupil who had been watching for a long time immediately greeted him with a smile. Young Master Qi, just now, this newly promoted intersect pupil and the supervisor quarreled. Then they started fighting. Then the man repeated what he had just heard and seen. There's actually a pupil who dares to beat up supervisors. Interesting. Qi Ran smiled and narrowed his peach blossom-shaped eyes. Stop. Suddenly, a mighty voice resounded throughout the hall with an invisible pressure enveloping the area. Lu Muyen stepped a few more times on the 2 people who had been beaten by her on the ground before she stopped. She took out a piece of silk to wipe her hands. The silk turned into powder in her hands. Was the managing elder finally willing to appear? After the voice fell, a serious-looking, elderly man suddenly appeared in the hall. What's going on? He asked coldly, sweeping Lu Muyen and the 3 supervisors on the ground with his eyes. Elder, this newly promoted intersect pupil is too arrogant. With just slight disagreement, she beat us 3 up wildly, cough cough. The supervisor who was first injured by Lu Muyen reversed black and white and said, she wanted to exchange for a spiritual item, and I only asked a few questions, but she actually provoked me and severely injured me. The managing elder furrowed his brows and cast his eyes sharply at Lu Muyen. He noticed that she had a face of mockery and asked grimly, is it as he said? Yes and no. Lu Muyen chuckled. It's just self-defense. They attacked me first. I can't just stand here stupidly and let them hit me, right? Then you think it's right for you to beat up the supervisors? The managing elder asked with eyes scorching hot and filled with pressure. Chapter 406. Being bullied? Lu Muyen's expression didn't change, and she wasn't at all deterred by the pressuring aura of the managing elder. Then is it wrong for me to defend myself? Lu Muyen smiled sweetly and asked instead. May I ask, elder, is there anything in the rules of the sect about a supervisor attacking a pupil, but a pupil not being allowed to fight back? Hearing her arrogant question, many of the pupils present couldn't help but suck in a breath. This woman was too arrogant. She actually dared to speak to the managing elder of the contribution points hall like this. Was she too naive and stupid, or did she have something to rely on? None of the newly promoted pupils of the inner sect were fools, so they all believed that this daring and high-spirited woman must have some backing. Otherwise she wouldn't dare be so arrogant and bold. Qi Ran's peach blossom-shaped eyes were filled with playfulness, and he had already guessed Lu Muyen's identity. Who is this woman? We should have heard of such an arrogant pupil before. A rough-looking young man asked behind him. Qi Ran raised the corner of his lips and said, if I guessed correctly, this woman should be Lu Muyen, who was selected into the inner sect as the number 1 of the outer sect. So it's her. A mature-looking man behind Qi Ran said, I heard that this woman has a good relationship with Jin Sei, but I didn't expect her to have the same hot temper. Although Jin Sei is arrogant and domineering, but she still wouldn't dare to beat up a supervisor. This junior sister Lu is worthy of being a pupil of martial ant Hu, one of the talisman school, filled with arrogance. Qi Ran smiled. Will she be punished? Laozi also doesn't like those supervisors that Lu Muyen beat up for a long time. The rough man said. Those three supervisors always liked to overtly agree but covertly oppose, were like dogs who threatened others on the strength of its master's power, and abused their powers. Although they didn't dare be too arrogant towards them, but he just didn't feel that they were pleasing to the eyes. Since she dared to do this, then she shouldn't be afraid of being punished. Well, just watch the show. The managing elder obviously didn't expect Lu Muyen to ask such a question so confidently, and for a moment, even he didn't know how to answer. After all, there really was no clause in the sex rules that a pupil would be punished for beating up a supervisor. Even if there isn't such a clause in the sex rules, you still shouldn't beat up a supervisor. If every pupil is as arrogant as you, then wouldn't the sex rules be messed up in the future? Managing elder, can I ask you a few questions first? Lu Muyen asked with a respectful smile, changing her previously presumptuous attitude. An obscure haze flashed across the managing elder's eyes. He thought a little, then nodded. Ask. Can you reserve the exchange items in the manual of the Sex Contribution Points Management Office? Lu Muyen asked calmly. Hearing her question, the supervisor who was beaten revealed panic in his eyes. This woman really dared to tell the managing elder what happened just now. Naturally not. The things in the manual can't be reserved. The managing elder furrowed his brows and replied. Since you can't reserve it, then when I wanted to exchange something, why did the supervisor tell me that the thing I want to exchange for is reserved and threaten me to leave as soon as possible? Otherwise I wouldn't be able to imagine the consequences. And the person who made the reservation wasn't someone that a newly promoted pupil like me can afford to offend. Lu Muyen smiled with ridicule. I sure want to ask managing elder just who has such face that he not only can reserve the spiritual items in the contribution points manual, but also was in existence that I, a newly promoted pupil, couldn't offend. You don't mind letting me meet him, do you? Could it be that this is a so-called sect rule? Is what she said true? The managing elder swept towards the supervisor on the ground with a stern look. The supervisor's eyes flickered and he said, No, she's talking nonsense. I only argued with her a little, and she beat me up. Do you think everyone here is deaf and blind? Lu Muyen raised an eyebrow and asked. The spectators twitched the corners of their lips. You can fight all you want. What did it have to do with us? I didn't ask you. The managing elder gave Lu Muyen a cold look. Lu Muyen shrugged. Then what do you want to do, elder? Come and read on our website Wuxia World site. Thanks, you two parties each stick to your own version in this argument. I naturally want to find out who is telling the truth. The managing elder said. But you beating up supervisors, I will report it and severely punish you. If self-defense is considered wrong, even if I have to take this to the ancestor, he'll still want an explanation. Lu Muyen stood upright, proud and firm. She didn't want to make things too big, but if anyone really wanted to step on her, then she didn't mind being a fox borrowing the backing of a tiger. Moreover, she found that there was a trace of dark evil aura on this managing elder, so there should be something wrong with this old fellow. How daring! You even dared to threaten this old man with the ancestor. The managing elder laughed angrily. I sure want to see how you will go to the ancestor to ask for an explanation. Sure. Then how about we go to the sect leader now first to judge? Lu Muyen said with a look as if that was only of course. The face of the managing elder was even uglier now. No one would have any face if this was brought to the sect leader. This girl sure was bold. Most importantly, he didn't want to heavily punish those supervisors at all, and only wanted to turn the big situation small, then turn the small situation into nothing. Just when the two sides were at a stalemate, Ao Rong and Huoling Long rushed to the main hall one after another. What's going on? As soon as Huoling Long walked into the hall, she saw the managing elder looking at Lu Muyen with sharp eyes, exuding the pressure of an advanced phase sword venerable. She quickly walked to Lu Muyen and raised an eyebrow to ask, You're being bullied? Lu Muyen nodded aggrievedly. I'm being bullied. Then don't you know to fight back? Huoling Long rolled her eyes at her angrily. Hearing Huoling Long's words, the pupils present twitched the corners of their lips. It turned out that Lu Muyen dared be so arrogant because of this one who supported her from behind. Lu Muyen blinked innocently, then pointed at the 3 people lying on the ground in pain and said, "I did beat them." Hua Linglong glanced at the 3 of them. Then some arrogance was revealed on her glamorous face, smiled and said, "Well beaten. You didn't make our talisman school lose face. It's also because I'm learning from headmaster's demeanor." Lu Muyin giggled and flattered. She felt warm inwardly. She really chose the right school back then. Only someone with a temperament like Hua Linglong would trust the pupil non-discriminatorily, and was extremely protective. Everyone was speechless. This really was with what kind of headmaster has what kind of pupil. Ao Rong looked at the 2 with a headache. This female tyrant dragon was precisely raising this little girl into a tigress. Cough cough, he walked over and asked, "Just what is going on? Why did I just hear that this would be taken to the sect leader?" Lu Muyen recounted what happened again, then said aggrievedly and innocently, "I'm just defending myself. Who would have thought that they were so weak and would be beaten with just a few random punches?" The others rolled their eyes inwardly. The 3 supervisors were still venerable cultivation-based sword masters. How weak could they be? It was obviously she who was too violent. Since those 3 made the first move, isn't it too much to punish little girl? Ao Rong said, looking at the managing elder. The managing elder could see it clearly now. It seemed that these 2 were here to support that girl. This is just her one-sided statement. We'll talk about the specifics after it's been investigated. Lu Muyin knew that the managing elder was going to delay this, and as if she believed that there wouldn't be something fishy that would happen. If it weren't for this managing elder's indulgence, then would these supervisors dare do such things so arrogantly and domineeringly? Whether it's just my one-sided statement or not, how about take a look at this? So far I'm not sure if the author made this a typo or not, since in the near chapters it hasn't been mentioned, but in the original Chinese, when it's in Qi Ran's perspective in this chapter, he addresses Hua Linglong as Hua Shirshu. If you search up Shirshu, you might come up with martial uncle, usually the disciple's master's younger male friend that might have trained under the same master, but has also been used as an address for females, and is actually gender neutral. I don't know if it's a more recent movement to use gender-neutral terms in China, or it's something that's occurred in ancient times too. At the same time, I've also heard the female form, Shirgu. I guess it's kind of like the term, xiansheng, that can be translated into sir, mister, but if you read a lot of ancient Chinese novels, you'll realize that there are many times a female teacher is called. It's a form of respect, I believe, to place the female at the same level as the male, especially in the same profession as teacher. Don't quote me on it, I don't study linguistics, ha ha ha. Chapter 407. Devil Race. By Lu Muyen held a crystal ball in her hand. She injected elemental energy into it, and what occurred between the supervisor and her, beginning from the moment they were talking to when they fought, was all shown clearly in front of everyone. This is the evidence that he abused his power, practiced favoritism, and attacked me first. The crystal ball was refined on a whim by her after she came out of the pagodas of enlightenment. Inside was an image reflection array. As long as she activated it with her mental energy, the crystal ball would naturally save the images of what occurred. She wanted to exchange heavy water, but that supervisor constantly delayed, so she used the crystal ball to record what happened just now. Luckily she had foresight. The managing elder watched the crystal ball, and his expression darkened. He had no idea that this little girl would have such means. Take the 3 of them down and await to be handled. He instructed the people of the contribution points hall. In the face of such detailed evidence, it was difficult for him to deal with it, and he could only treat the 3 as abandoned chess pieces. The 3 still wanted to argue, but when they saw the grim look cast by the managing elder, they instantly shut their mouths and dared not to speak. Lu Muyen secretly observed the exchanges of the several people, and discovered that there was indeed a problem with this managing elder. My hall's supervisors indeed did something wrong, but it's still not right for this pupil to beat the supervisors with such audacity. I still think that she should be punished. The managing elder obviously didn't want to let Lu Muyen go. Punish? I think it's better to replace you, a managing elder who cannot discern right from wrong, as soon as possible. Hua Linglong heard that the managing elder was going to punish Lu Muyen, so she instantly grew furious. Do you believe that Laonyang will demolish this contribution points management office first? Hua Linglong, this isn't your talisman school. You condoning your pupils' arrogance. How are you a headmaster of a school? Even if you report this to the sect leader, this old man will still insist on punishing Lu Muyen. If he just let Lu Muyen go today, how could he raise his trusted aides and establish his prestige in this contribution points hall in the future? Sure. Then we'll go to the sect leader for a judgment. Hua Linglong snorted coldly. Did this damned old thing think she was dead to bully her talisman school's pupil? Elderly, aren't you making too much of a fuss? Ao Rong's expression also revealed slight displeasure. Lu Muyen wanted to exchange for a spiritual item your contributions hall clearly still had, but they kept saying it's been reserved. After speaking reason, the supervisor even attacked first to injure. It's not wrong for her to defend herself. It's the supervisors of the contribution points hall who was on the ground injured and not her. The managing elder held on to the fact that the three were injured. With such vicious attacks, such a pupil is too violent and has a bad temperament. How did I attack viciously? Just go call a physician here to examine the injuries now. Otherwise, if they die later, don't blame it on me. Lu Muyen immediately stopped the three people who were about to be taken away, and said coldly, "This old damn thing definitely didn't have a good heart." She was very suspicious that these three people would be killed. Then the charges for their deaths would be placed on her. How could she let him succeed? Killing intent flashed across the eyes of the managing elder. He was originally going to kill them, then place it on Lu Muyen's head, but he didn't expect this girl to be so shrewd. You go and call a physician. Hua Linglong instructed a pupil, then said with an obscure, ambiguous tone. So that's how it's going to be. You damned old thing, not only did you bully a pupil of my school, you even want to play with such a devilish idea. Laonyang will see just what more tricks you want to play today. You bully people too much. The managing elder pointed at Hua Linglong angrily. Since you said that we bully people too much, then Laonyang will fulfill that wish. Hua Linglong looked at him with ridicule, then instantly attacked. The managing elder was shocked when he saw her act, then immediately took out a defensive magic treasure to resist. However, when an advanced phase sword venerable met a sword saint, the strength gap between them was too great, and he was just looking to be beaten. With only one attack, he completely lost. After that, Hua Linglong beat him up wildly, and he secretly hated her, but he didn't dare to reveal his true strength. Then Hua Linglong tapped on the managing elder's forehead, and his gaze instantly unfocused before fainting. Everyone couldn't help but twitch the corners of their lips when they saw Hua Linglong beat up the managing elder. The women of the talisman school really couldn't be provoked. Come and read on our website Wuxia World site. Thanks. After a while, the pupil brought a physician from the sect over. The moment he saw Hua Linglong, a chill ran up his spine. This female tyrant dragon injured someone again. Physician Wang, go and check their injuries. Hua Linglong said. Yes. Physician Wang checked their injuries, including the managing elders, then said, they only suffered from skin-deep injuries, nothing serious. All right, we've troubled you to make the trip. Hua Linglong nodded. No trouble, no trouble. What a joke, he didn't dare to offend the female tyrant dragon at all. Hua Linglong looked at Lu Muyen and asked, aren't you going to go exchange what you want? Yes. Lu Muyen walked up to a supervisor with a happy smile and said, I want to exchange heavy water. No one has reserved it this time, right? Of course no one's made a reservation. I'll exchange it for you immediately. The supervisor shuddered when he received Hua Linglong's grim gaze, and quickly exchanged heavy water for Lu Muyen. The managing elder was even knocked unconscious by this woman. How would they dare to refute? Lu Muyen quickly collected the heavy water. She had a feeling that if she didn't successfully exchange it today, there definitely would be a change next time. Hua Linglong waited for Lu Muyen to exchange, then directly took her away from the contribution points hall, and had no plans of dealing with knocking out the managing elder at all. Ao Rong pondered, then personally took the several people away for treatment. Ran watched the backs of the several people leaving, then looked at that managing elder thoughtfully. Huolinglong took Lu Muyen to a secret room, then said, "That old guy does indeed have a problem. I'll report this matter to sect leader." Then she changed the subject and said sternly, "Next time, you shouldn't take risks to test this kind of thing. If he really is a hidden spy of the devil race, then you'll definitely receive their revenge for sabotaging their plans today. Heavy water is important to me, so I had to take the risk." Lu Muyen asked Jun Luochen the moment she felt that hidden dark evil aura on that managing elder earlier, and the answer she received was the same as her guess. That person was a devil race that lurked in the 8 Extremes sect. Since she discovered it, then she naturally wouldn't do nothing. Devil race spies were a great hidden danger to the 8 Extremes sect, and even the entire Tianling continent. So when Huolinglong and Ao Rong arrived, she first telepathically told them that she discovered that the managing elder had the same aura as that Shenmu Feng, which then led to the scene where Huolinglong knocked him out to control him. Either way, you need to be more careful in the sect in the future. I'll secretly arrange people to protect you. Huolinglong's beautiful face revealed slight worry. After an hour, Ao Rong hurriedly came over. "What's wrong?" Huolinglong looked at him and asked. Ao Rong's expression sank. "I checked with 2 other elders, and he is indeed a devil cultivator." He turned his eyes to Lu Muyen and said, "You adapted very well today. No one would think that you acted like this because you discovered his identity as a devil race spy, but you must pay attention to your safety for now." "I will be careful." Lu Muyen nodded. "All right, you can return to rest first. We're going to the sect leader to report the situation." Ao Rong waved at Lu Muyen. Lu Muyen also knew the severity of the matter. What was going to happen wasn't something she could participate in, so she left consciously. Chapter 408. Famous once again. After Lu Muyen left, Ao Rong and Huolinglong went to have a discussion with the sect leader, and secretly ordered people to protect her. What happened in the hall of the sect's contribution points hall was quickly spread with exaggeration by the pupils present, vividly explained. Lu Muyen, who originally wanted to keep a low profile, was once again famous around the sect. Now both the newly promoted pupils and the old pupils knew the news that she dared to beat the supervisors, and yet went unpunished. Most importantly was that a few days later, the managing elder of the sect's contribution points hall and the 3 supervisors were all replaced. This also implied that Lu Muyen's strength in the inner sect wasn't small, and at least had the support of Ao Rong and Huolinglong, so she could walk however she wanted. Of course, this was all what happened afterwards. On that day, on a floating island of the 8 Extremes sect, "Boss, the heavy water was exchanged by someone." An inner sect pupil hurriedly walked into the courtyard and said to a man who sat meditating. The man slowly opened his cold eyes, his voice like ice that couldn't be melted. "Just what the hell happened?" The pupil recounted what occurred in the sect's contribution points hall and asked, "Boss, what should we do now? Are we going to go find that woman and snatch the heavy water?" "Humph, how can we snatch it? According to what you said, she has Huolinglong and Elder Ao behind her. If we do anything, we will definitely be discovered." The man's expression was grim. All his previous contribution points were exchanged for training time on the floating island and the elemental underground palaces. Who would have thought that he was accidentally injured when he went out on a mission a few days ago and now needed to refine heavy water to heal his wounds? But he only had 100,000 contribution points left, so he greeted the supervisor and made a reservation first, then would go to exchange for it when he collected enough contribution points. Who would have thought that in only a single day, it would be taken by someone else? How despicable. "Then what about your injury, boss?" "We can only think of another way. After my injury's healed, I'll definitely not let that woman named Lu Muyen live well." The man said fiercely. Heavy water wasn't only a material for refining water attribute magic tools, but was also a miraculous product for water attribute sword masters to heal wounds. Originally, he could fully utilize the power of the heavy water to repair the injuries in his body, and even hoped to take another step up in terms of cultivation base. Yet who knew that it would be destroyed by that newly promoted pupil of the inner sect out of nowhere? As one of the people in the top 10 of the contribution points ranking, he couldn't swallow this anger, so he must take revenge in the future. Lu Muyen didn't know that she had inadvertently offended the leader of a strong force in the sect. Of course, even if she knew about it, she wouldn't care. She was determined to take the heavy water, and she wouldn't hesitate to fight against that force for it. After returning to her residence, Lu Muyen began to refine the water attribute natal magic tool. During her seclusion, there were many people who came to visit, but were all rejected. On a floating island, Qiran leaned on a soft couch and asked the person standing in front of him, "Lu Muyen hasn't come out yet?" "Yes. She hasn't come out since she left the contribution points hall and returned to her residence that day. When we went there, we saw that other forces also sent a communication talisman in. They probably wanted to win her over." With half-closed eyes, Qiran pondered for a while. "Don't disturb her for the time being and report to me immediately when she leaves the courtyard." "Yes, young Master Qi." After the person exited the room, Qiran's peach blossom-shaped eyes were filled with intense interest, and his crimson lips lightly parted. "It's rare to meet such an interesting woman. I sure don't want to scare her away." 3 days later, countless thunderclouds gathered above the sky of Lu Muyan's courtyard. This anomalous phenomenon also attracted the attention of many people. Boom boom. Not long after, countless tribulation thunders descended one after another, with a vast amount of power. Come and read on our website Wuxia World site. Thanks. Those nearby who wanted to figure out what was going on only saw a giant cyan blue bird flap its wings and take the initiative to meet the terrifying tribulation thunder. "That's the Cyan Luan divine beast? Is it going to advance?" Some watched in amazement as the cyan blue bird was struck by the tribulation thunder. But there wasn't much damage. Judging from such a force, that Cyan Luan divine beast is about to advance to Tier 9. That Cyan Luan is Lu Muyan's spirit pet. Now it's actually going to advance to Tier 9. She sure is very lucky. Someone said with envy, jealousy, and hatred. A Tier 9 demonic beast was equivalent to a strong sword saint powerhouse, so it would also mean that Lu Muyen would have an extra powerful helper in the future. Bingji continued to meet the waves of fierce tribulation thunder, and Lu Muyan's refining of the natal magic tool also arrived at a critical moment. When the last wave of the thunder tribulation arrived, her eyes narrowed, and she wielded the set of blue flying swords that had just formed. They fell directly below the tribulation thunders. Traces of thunder power and lightning hit the flying swords. She constantly formed seals and strips of jade-colored runes drilled into the flying sword. Bingji was struck by a tribulation thunder, and most of his cyan blue feathers were damaged, even charred black. Upon seeing his, Lu Muyen immediately mobilized the 10 small, blue flying swords to surround him. The dozen or so rune belts around the small, blue flying swords were mixed with thunder and lightning, not only tempering the sword, but also engraving a supporting array onto the sword body. Boom boom. Another thick tribulation thunder descended and Bingji immediately greeted it with a cry. The 10 small swords also absorbed a lot of the power of the lightning in an instant, emitting a dazzling blue light, then finally merged into a long sword that exuded a cold glint. The long sword moved automatically, absorbing a lot of the power of the thunder tribulation. When the last tribulation thunder struck, Bingji was blasted straight to the ground and his aura was weak. All demonic beasts who wanted to advance to Tier 9 must go through the baptism of the thunder tribulation. Other people or demonic beasts couldn't help, and Bingji was no exception. Although his aura was unstable right now, but he finally survived the baptism of the thunder tribulation. Because the fluctuation of the thunder tribulation was too great, an array wouldn't be able to conceal it. So instead of letting Bingji go somewhere else outside the sect to transcend the calamity, it was better to transcend the calamity in the courtyard. On one hand, it would be much safer to advance for Bingji, and on the other hand, it could also provide a deterrent effect. At least some people who didn't have eyes wouldn't come to find trouble for her again. And finally, she could also use the power of the thunder tribulation to temper her natal magic tool's last process. About an hour later, the black tribulation clouds in the sky gradually dissipated, and a warm light suddenly enveloped Bingji. His feathers that had been struck black earlier began to recover, and his aura gradually grew stronger. When he opened his eyes, it was amazingly bright. Another 3 days passed, and Lu Muyan's courtyard door finally opened. The news of her leaving also reached the ears of many, and people came to visit. After she received them one by one, she discovered that there were 2 forces in the inner sect that wanted to win her over. However, they were both temporarily rejected by her. She wasn't interested in joining any forces. Her current goal was to improve her strength, so she flew in the direction of the elemental underground palaces as soon as she exited seclusion. On a secluded floating island, a handsome man bathed in the sun on a reclining chair. A rough-looking man approached him and said, "Lu Muyan has left the courtyard." Qi Ran slowly opened his eyes and asked gently, "Where did she go?" "She flew on a sword in the direction of the elemental underground palaces." Qi Ran chuckled, got up from the reclining chair and said, "Go. Let's go to the elemental underground palaces to join in the fun. I heard that her aptitude can be ranked first among the newly promoted pupils this time. Let's go and see which chamber she could arrive at in the elemental underground palaces." Seeing the strong interest in Qi Ran's eyes, the rough man twitched the corners of his lips. Their boss seemed to have a great interest in that Lu Muyan. Lu Muyan found the elemental underground palaces according to the map in the jade slip given by Di Shirtian, and found that there were many pupils entering. It could be regarded as a lively place in the sect. There were 8 elemental underground palaces in total, those being metal, wood, water, fire, earth, wind, ice, and thunder. The pupils in the sect naturally chose the underground palace with the same attribute as their own elemental energy attribute for cultivation. Lu Muyan's fire and wood dual attributes had reached the great achievement realm. But the natal magic tool she refined was metal and water, so she first chose the metal elemental underground palace. The top floor of the underground palace was the supervising hall, which was specifically responsible for receiving and managing pupils. "Supervisor, I want to buy training time in the elemental underground palace." Lu Muyan walked up to a supervisor and said with a light smile. When the supervisor looked up and saw Lu Muyan, he paused, then said with a professional smile on his face, "How would you like to buy it? Are there different ways to buy it?" Lu Muyan asked in confusion. The supervisor knew that she had not come to the elemental underground palaces to cultivate before, so he explained in detail. There are generally 2 types of ways to purchase time in the elemental underground palaces. One type is that you know which floor you want to cultivate on, and around how long you need to cultivate in it. Then use contribution points to buy it. This type is usually cheaper, 170 contribution points a day, but if you buy it for more time than needed, we don't give refunds. The other way is to buy a day's time first. If you want to continue to cultivate, you can directly pay contribution points in a card slot in the elemental underground palaces array. This way requires 200 contribution points a day, but it isn't wasteful. Then you'll buy the second way. Lu Muyan handed over her identity jade tablet and swiped 200 contribution points. The first one would be more cost-effective if the cultivation time was long, but the number of chambers in the underground palace was fixed. She had never cultivated in it at all, so she had no idea how long it would take. Pupils who enter the elemental underground palaces for the first time must pay attention to one thing. If they feel that the elemental pressure in the underground palace is too heavy, and the meridians of their entire body feels as if it would rupture, then they must come out to rest for a while before re-entering. Otherwise the consequences will be at their own risk. The supervisor reminded. "All right, thank you for the reminder." Lu Muyan learned the rules of the elemental underground palaces, then entered the stone gate in front, and was instantly teleported in. As soon as she stood firm, she felt a dense metal elemental force envelop the entire space with heavy pressure. She could see pupils comprehending and cultivating at intervals around her. She discovered that such gravity was nothing to her. After finding a place with the densest metal element, she sat cross-legged and began to cultivate and comprehend it. 2 hours later, She opened her eyes and found that the pressure of the metal element in the first chamber was of little use to her, so she entered into the second chamber. She only stayed in the first chamber for 2 hours. The supervisor whispered in surprise. The elemental underground palaces were open to all inner pupils. In order to encourage everyone to cultivate, the list of the pupils in each chamber will appear on a crystal wall of the supervising area. So as soon as Lu Muyen entered into the second chamber, it attracted the attention of some people. Qi Ran realized that Lu Muyen only took 2 hours before stepping into the second chamber, but there wasn't much fluctuation in his eyes, as if it were to be expected. Young Master Qi, she seemed to have spent around the same amount of time in the first chamber as you. The rough man behind him said. Let's go in to cultivate and take a look at her achievements. After Qi Ran finished speaking, he stepped into the 7th chamber of the Metal Elementa, underground palace to cultivate, and his follower cultivated in the 5th chamber. Entering the elemental underground palaces for cultivation was basically a required course for every intersex pupil each month, so Lu Muyan's actions didn't attract many people's attention at first. Come and read on our website Wuxia World site. Thanks. After stepping into the 2nd chamber, Lu Muyan was suppressed by a wave of metal attribute element that rushed towards her. The density here was much thicker than the first chamber, but it still wasn't enough for her. She only stayed in the 2nd chamber for 4 hours before stepping into the 3rd chamber. Then to the 4th chamber, 5th chamber, and in the 6th chamber, she spent a little more time, but it only took 3 days. Then she stepped into the 7th chamber, and as soon as she entered the 7th chamber, she was surrounded by a vast expanse of golden color. An invisible pressure hit her instantly. If it weren't for her strong body, she might have even been crushed to the floor as soon as she came in. Her entry there also successfully attracted the attention of the cultivating pupils in the 7th chamber. When they saw that she was a new face and wasn't crushed flat to the ground by the metal element in here, they all revealed looks of surprise. The shock in Qi Ran's eyes disappeared in an instant. He never expected Lu Muyen to arrive in the 7th chamber so quickly. Remembering that even when it took more than half a month for him to go from the 1st chamber to the 7th chamber at the time, arriving at the Great Achievement Realm, he was still known as the #1 person in the Metal Elemental Underground Palace. Who would have thought that this young woman only took 5 days to reach the 7th chamber? Lu Muyen felt that her entire body was as if it were sinking into the depths of a swamp, and it was difficult to move. The surrounding metal attribute element was strongly suppressing her entire body, and the meridians in her limbs felt as if they were expanding. The density of the metal element in the 7th chamber was 10 times that of the 6th chamber. An arc rose on her lips. The 7th chamber was indeed a challenge to her. She slowly moved her feet, and when she reached her 10th step, she couldn't bear the increasing gravity of the element, and had to sit down to comprehend and cultivate. On one hand, the constant pressure of the metal element made her body reach the limit again and again, and on the other hand, the bottleneck she had reached of the elemental comprehension broke. Half a day later, she opened her eyes, got up, and walked forward some more. When her legs began to bend and couldn't bear the pressure, she sat down again, and began to cultivate and comprehend. In her own opinion, such speed was considered slow, but in the eyes of the pupils in the 7th chamber, she was simply not human. Qi Ran looked at Lu Muyen, who was about to approach his position, and his peach blossom-shaped eyes revealed a bit more complexity. When he first stepped into the 7th chamber, it took nearly a month from entering the door to where Lu Muyen sat cross-legged now, but she only took 3 days. This made him unable to express his shock in words anymore. Lu Muyen devoted herself to cultivation while the people in the elemental underground palaces began to become chaotic. The news that Lu Muyen, a newly promoted inner-sect pupil, had entered the underground palace for the first time, but comprehended to the 7th chamber already spread as if it grew wings. She completely broke the record of Qi Ran, the #1 person in the metal elemental underground palace, and it was even an insurmountable length of time. Did you hear? That Lu Muyen, who beat up the supervisors last time in the contribution points hall, already comprehended to the 7th chamber of the metal elemental underground palace. I've long known about it. And she only took 5 days to enter the 7th floor. Such talent can be considered an abnormal monster. She's that amazing? One must know that it took young Master Qi more than half a month to step into the 7th chamber. She wouldn't have any magic tools on her to help resist the suppression of the metal element, would she? No magic tools can be activated in the elemental underground palaces. The moment a pupil enters into the selected chamber, they would be locked onto by the array in the underground palace. If there were stupid people, they would be completely crushed by the gravity of the underground palace. It's definitely because of her powerful talent for her to enter the 7th chamber. Chapter 410. Junior sister. How about being friends? Pupils in various places of the sect were constantly discussing the topic of Lu Muyan. Heavens! How long has she been in the inner sect? And she's already reached this level. I wonder if she can break the record of the 7th chamber and enter the 8th chamber. How's that possible? There's no pupil in the sect who has ever stepped into the 8th chamber of the elemental underground palaces. Even if she's exceptionally talented, it'll still be difficult for her to reach that level. No wonder she's that protected by Headmaster Hua and Elder Ao. Such talent is considered a top existence in the inner sect. So what if her talent to comprehend is that good? Her strength still needs to match. If she can rush into the top 30 of the Rising Soul Steel, then I'll be completely convinced. TSK, you speak as if that's easy. How's it that easy to enter the top 30 of the Rising Soul Steel? Don't indulge in a wild fantasy. Even if she's that amazing right now, she can't be that terrifying. Lu Muyan comprehended little by little. She felt that the drop of liquid formed from the metal attribute within her body became more and more solid, and it even grew slightly in size. When the pressure of the metal element at her current location was no longer an obstacle to her, she stood up and continued forward. When she walked to the side of a handsome and seemingly amorous man, the waves of metal elemental pressure instantly turned into a cyclone to suppress her. The cyclone of the metal element pressed down on her muscles and meridians, and the drop of golden liquid in her body overflowed with layers of undulating halos. Her eyes were firm, her back was bent, but she straightened it a little with her perseverance, moving her steps bit by bit. Junior sister, if you try too hard, it would harm the meridians of your whole body. Qi Ran looked up at Lu Muyan and said with a smile. Lu Muyan glanced at him in surprise, then said with a small smile, "Thank you, senior brother, for reminding me." After thinking about it, she took out a bright red fruit and squeezed it. A few drops of red fruit liquid fell on her arm, and were absorbed little by little. She found that the elemental underground palace was indeed a good place. Not only could she cultivate and comprehend the elements, but she could also use the elemental spale gravity to temper her body. Her sorcerer's skills activation speed also doubled under the pressure here. As long as she reached the 8th chamber and pressured, her sorcerer's skill could break through to the 3rd layer and enter the 4th layer. Birth spiritual fruit. Qi Ran's expression revealed surprise. This woman's physique was too strong. She actually dared to use her body to directly absorb the birth spiritual fruit to refine her body. Then his pupils constricted. Was Lu Muyan trying to shape her body by using the gravity of the metal elemental pressure in this space? Senior brother, do you want one? Lu Muyan took out a bright red fruit and tossed it to him casually. She could see that the other party had no malice towards her. Qi Ran stretched out his hand to catch the birth spiritual fruit, and said with a smile that wasn't quite a smile, "Junior sister sure is generous." He held the spiritual fruit, but he didn't dare to directly refine and absorb it all like Lu Muyan. He could only squeeze a drop and melt it into his bones. Suddenly he felt a piercing pain. Under the pressure of the metal element, it was as if his meridians were about to break. Lu Muyan sighed, then tossed a bottle of pills over and said, "Take one and it'll relieve your pain." Qi Ran shuddered as he picked up the bottle, and immediately poured one out and took it. A refreshing feeling spread all over his body, and the bursting feeling of his meridians was indeed relieved a lot as his body gradually calmed down. "Thank you, junior sister." He looked up at Lu Muyan. He originally wanted to try Lu Muyan's method of body refining using the elemental pressure when he saw her do it. Come and read on our website Wuxia World site. Thanks, yet who knew that his body couldn't adapt to such high-intensity body tempering at all? If it weren't for her pill to neutralize the medicinal properties of the spiritual fruit, he would have had to leave the elemental underground palace immediately to avoid him exploding. You're welcome. Lu Muyan didn't know him, but she could guess who the person who could stay in the area with the densest metal element of the 7th chamber was. Before, she seemed to have offended a lot of people in the inner sect. Seeing that Qi Ran wasn't hostile to her, and even conveyed a kindness to her, she didn't mind befriending him. Junior sister, don't your meridians hurt? Qi Ran couldn't help but smile bitterly when he saw the relaxed expression on her face. I only used a single drop, and it felt like the meridians of my entire body were about to burst. It hurts, but it's still within the range that I can bear. Lu Muyan smiled. She currently felt that the bones and meridians in her entire body were sore and painful, and the spatial gravity of the metal element was pressuring her to a limit, but she just liked this sort of stimulating feeling of constantly challenging the limits of her body. It wasn't that she liked to seek abuse. Instead, reaching and surpassing the limit again and again like this could make her improve quickly and break through faster. My name is Qi Ran, junior sister. How about being friends? Qi Ran's peach blossom-shaped eyes were filled with brilliant ripples, and his angular face was dyed with a sense of unbridled confidence, which made him even more handsome. If other women saw Qi Ran's appearance, they would probably be infatuated for a while, but Lu Muyan, who had seen many beautiful men, was indifferent to it. She just judged in her heart that this man was definitely a disaster for many women. Sure. My name's Lu Muyan. The two smiled in understanding, then began to cultivate on the spot. Qi Ran was going to borrow Lu Muyan's pill to refine the birth spiritual fruit to temper his body. Lu Muyan sat cross-legged and refined and absorbed all the birth spiritual fruit in her body. A little golden halo penetrated her skin, and she gradually indulged in an indescribable state. There were two men sitting cross-legged in the distance near them, and their expressions were filled with shock right now. That new pupil named Lu Muyan is too strong. One person sighed with a complicated gaze. We've been surpassed again. It's a good thing to be surpassed, at least it won't let us be arrogant, with a mountain beyond another mountain. Another person smiled indifferently. Perhaps the number one person of the metal elemental underground palace will soon be replaced. I think she might surpass Qi Ran. It's not she might, but she definitely will. Just wait and see. As time passed, Lu Muyan stayed in the 7th chamber for another 10 days. She found that although the gravity here was useful for suppression, but she could no longer break through her limits. So she got up and walked towards the portal to the 8th chamber. Junior sister, are you going to enter the 8th chamber? Qi Ran opened his eyes and asked Lu Muyan in utter shock. Lu Muyan nodded. I want to try. The metal elemental gravity in the 8th chamber is 10 times that of the 7th chamber. I tried it once, and as soon as I entered, it felt like I was going to be crushed into meat sauce. If I didn't exit in time, my body would have been damaged. He paused, then continued. Won't junior sister cultivate for a little while longer in the 7th chamber? I feel that the gravity pressure here is still very useful to you. No need. I prefer to challenge the limit. The 7th chamber doesn't have the feeling I want anymore. Lu Muyan turned her head and smiled. Senior brother, you can take the most difficult step if you have the courage to try. If you fail once, then try again. Qi Ran was stunned when he heard what she said, then said thoughtfully, Junior sister is right. Lu Muyan said no more, turned, and stepped into the portal to the 8th chamber. As soon as she was teleported into the 8th chamber, before she could even stand firm, she was shrouded by the gravity of surging metal attribute element, and she couldn't help but half kneel on the ground. Chapter 411. Want as many as you have. Lu Muyan was half kneeling in the space of the 8th chamber, and the bones on her entire body made crisp sounds. She felt that she was being pressured by the gravity of the space here in a small crevice, and even breathing began to be extremely difficult. She gasped and exited the 8th chamber. The moment she returned to the 7th chamber, she quickly began to adjust herself. Ran and the other two in the 7th chamber were shocked when they saw her step into the 8th chamber. Then they were relieved to see that she quickly retreated. If she could really cultivate in the space of the 8th chamber, then she really would be heaven-defying. Lu Muyen ignored the complicated gazes from the three of them. She calmly recovered her breaths. Then after an hour, she stepped into the 8th chamber again. Is she crazy? One of the two men exclaimed. The other furrowed his brows and said, she should be challenging herself. Challenging herself? Isn't this not knowing her limits? Maybe. Ran didn't expect Lu Muyen to try again so quickly either. He was a little puzzled by Lu Muyen's approach. Even if she wanted to challenge her limits, but she should only do what she could. When she entered the 8th chamber this time, Lu Muyen still felt the pressure that made her breathless, but she gritted her teeth and half knelt down to run the spiritual energy in her body. The drop of golden liquid was constantly rippling, and the meridians in her entire body felt like they were about to burst open. The stabbing pain that spread was like countless fine long needles stabbing at her body. She closed her eyes that were clear and firm. When her body reached the limit, she immediately exited the 8th chamber. After returning to the 7th chamber, she continued to meditate to recover quickly, and even took a meridian's nourishing pill. A wave of coolness entered the meridians of her entire body, and the bursting feeling gradually dissipated while her meridians also contracted back to normal with the healing of the pill. After an hour, she got up and continued to step into the 8th chamber. The three people in the 7th chamber were puzzled by her approach. They just felt that she was too impulsive and couldn't see her own limits, overestimating herself. In such a way, 2 days passed, and Lu Muyen continued to enter into the 8th chamber, then return into the 7th chamber after a period of time, repeating at least more than 10 times. Is there something wrong with her brain? She obviously can't overcome it, but she continues to seek abuse. One of the two said, although they haven't been to the 8th chamber, but they could also guess that the taste wasn't that good. The other glanced at him and asked, haven't you seen a problem? What problem? Each time she enters the 8th chamber, the time she spends in there is longer. From the few breaths of time from the beginning to the present 2 hours, the pupils of the person who spoke first constricted, and immediately realized her purpose. She's actually really challenging her own limits, and it seems that she even succeeded. Maybe she'll be the first person in the inner sect to break the chains of being unable to enter the 8th chamber to cultivate. Come and read on our website Wuxia World site. Thanks. Seeing Lu Muyen's attempts again and again, Ran was shocked beyond words. He suddenly felt that he had taken a huge detour before, so even though he could easily deal with the 7th chamber right now, but he still couldn't set foot into the 8th chamber. He adjusted his breath for a while, his eyes firm, and he also stepped into the 8th chamber. As soon as he stepped into the 8th chamber, he found that he was crushed to the ground just like last time. But this time he didn't give up immediately, gritted his teeth for a few breaths before returning to the 7th chamber. During Lu Muyen's advance and retreat, Ran also began to imitate her, and tried to stay in the 8th chamber for a longer period of time. But even with the same attempt, each time Ran exited, he was in a much more sorry state than Lu Muyen. However, he wasn't discouraged, and instead, became even bolder as he tried. Lu Muyen knew that Ran was modeling her, but she didn't dislike it, and instead, felt that this person was indeed a talent, abandoning his previous thoughts while having the courage to accept new attempts. Such a person would be able to walk for longer. Senior Brother Qi, do you feel that your meridians are always burning painfully each time you come out to the point you need to recover for a long time for the swelling pain to subside? Lu Muyen asked with a smile when Ran exited the 8th chamber for the 4th time. Ran had a look of endurance on his face. Right now, his entire body was truly hurting so badly, and he smiled bitterly. Isn't Junior Sister like this? Lu Muyen smiled and took out a bottle of pills and shook it. Of course I also feel the pain, but after taking the Meridian's nourishing pill, the bursting pain will be greatly alleviated, and it can also nourish the meridians to not be greatly affected by the 8th chamber's metal elemental gravity suppression. Junior Sister, do you still have any pills? Ran's eyes lit up. I do. But this time, I can't give it to Senior Brother for free. Lu Muyen blinked, as if a sly little fox. Tiran's lips twitched. He felt that it wasn't so simple for her to take the initiative to introduce the effect of the Meridian's nourishing pill. Of course, senior brother would also be embarrassed to take your things for nothing. He looked at her in amusement and said, 5,000 contribution points for one pill. I can sell it to senior brother if you want. Lu Muyen smiled meaningfully while playing with the pill. Senior brother, this Meridian's nourishing pill can not only nourish the Meridians, but also improve one's cultivation base. It's now or never. Her contribution points were about to run out now. The consumption each day in the 8th chamber was simply too shocking. If there was no way to obtain some more contribution points, she could only spend at most another 2 days in here before being teleported out. Junior sister, you only need 2,500 to 3,000 contribution points for a grade 4 pill in the contribution points hall. Isn't it your Meridian's nourishing pill too expensive? Tiran chuckled. So it turned out that this little fox wanted contribution points, thereby taking out this pill to lure him. Lu Muyen raised an eyebrow and said with a smile, not expensive. My pill is a grade 4 pill but has grade 5 effects. The grade 5 pills in the contribution points hall needs at least more than 6,000 contribution points to exchange. Alright, I'll try one first. Although using 5,000 contribution points to exchange for a grade 4 pill was expensive, but he also wanted to try this Meridian's nourishing pill to see if it was as amazing as she said it was. Lu Muyen handed over her identity jade token and the pill together, then blinked and said with a smile, Senior brother, I promise you won't regret it after taking it, wanting a second one after taking the first. Tiran held his forehead speechlessly. This woman did business even here in the elemental underground palace. He really didn't know what to say about her. He spent 5,000 contribution points for the pill from Lu Muyen, then took it. A trace of coolness spread all over his body. After the Meridian's nourishing pill dissolved in his dantian, it began to warm and nourish along the meridians of his entire body. Not long after, Tiran discovered that the bursting feeling of the meridians in his body, which should have taken 2 hours to subside, gradually faded with the coolness and finally returned to calm. Most importantly, when the meridians returned to their normal state, the elemental energy in his body even became slightly purer. After running a few macrocosmic orbits around his body, he now discovered that in this meal attribute gravity space, when running his elemental energy, it was even faster. If he continued to temper at this speed, the bottleneck he was about to reach would soon be able to be broken through. Junior sister, give me some more of this Meridian's nourishing pill. I want as many as you have. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.